Ellen, you are the voice that we wanted to talk to. What's your read on this? Is it a surprise? Does it make sense in terms of what we're seeing out of Saudi Arabia and Saudi Aramco?
So I think it's interesting, mostly because Aramco has traditionally done most of its business, in Asia in long-term contracts. So they've got long-term contracts for crude with Chinese refineries, Chinese petrochemicals, Korean, Japanese. They've got a lot of their kind of long-term contracts. They've got that basically locked out. And so what we're really seeing here, I think, is a very temporary situation in which there's a lot of crude oil that needs to move out of the Persian Gulf, basically to get things unplugged and get things moving again. So you had oil that was sitting in tankers, that had already basically been, bought, that was just waiting to go. And we've seen a lot of that start to get moving out of the Gulf. But now we're seeing oil that's basically sitting in storage tanks onshore storage that also needs to get moving. And they've got to get this stuff moving in order to get back to, what we call normal business. Remember, we're also seeing, a lot of declines in terms of gasoline, diesel, and other petrochemical and other petroleum products in the Middle East. They've got to get this stuff unplugged so that they can get back to selling these other cargoes as well, if that's possible, to move them out of the Strait of Hormuz. And so the lower price, I think, reflects a lot of that backup, that they've got to lower the price enough to make it to make it likely that Asian buyers will snap up these cargoes, and also to make it worthwhile to charter a tanker to go into the Persian Gulf, collect this stuff, and get out, because that is in no way assured. That process is still very much up in the air. And so I think that this is not necessarily something that we're going to see happen in the long term. This is a temporary thing just to get that market unplugged, so to say.
Okay, so you have to imagine, though, right, that if one producer is cutting prices, that's going to weigh on global oil markets more broadly, right?
Exactly. And it is weighing on global oil markets more broadly, but it doesn't necessarily indicate that we're in some sort of oil glut. It's sort of like there's a glut in the Middle East because there's a backup getting things out, and that does impact prices all over the place. But for example, someone who's trying to sell oil in, say Houston, or sell it in the Gulf of Mexico, isn't going to have the same tanker issues as someone in Saudi Arabia. So they can command a higher price, not necessarily as high as they would like to on the market, but because what's going on in one place does affect prices elsewhere, but they don't face the same issues getting a tanker in and out, for example. So we're really just seeing a lot of disconnect in the market. We're also seeing these issues with gasoline and diesel. The gasoline prices are much higher than oil prices would indicate they should be. And that's really because, we don't have enough refining capacity for the oil. And so they can't reduce their prices until either we get all of these kind of kinks worked out of the system, or we see more refining capacity come online.
So, Ellen, it isn't like a bigger story of Saudi Aramco, or are they as powerful as they were when you wrote that book back in 2018?
They're extremely powerful. They've made a lot of money off of this crisis. I mean, it's not ideal for them. Okay, they prefer to have oil prices fairly stable. They prefer to sell their oil and deliver it to their customers with great regularity. They would prefer not to have had to have cut production. But overall, this price cut is probably not seen as a major blow for them. I mean, there was a point where they were selling cargoes for over $140 a barrel. So they've made plenty of money. I think what they'd like to do is get things back to where they were. They'd like to be pumping more oil, producing more products, selling those cargoes on, get the supply chains running again. And if they have to cut the price on their oil to get it out there, to get China to buy it, to make it worthwhile for China to buy it, just so they can, fix the plumbing, so to speak, then they see that as worthwhile, because they're in it for the long run.
Right. How long does it take to get the plumbing fixed, essentially? Like, are we talking about a couple weeks here, or
Have you ever
months?
tried to call a plumber? It just takes a while.
That is definitely the question. It could take several months. It could take less. The market is incredibly resilient, but it also depends on a lot of factors, such as whether China is going to be enticed by these lower prices and willing to, remember, China cut between 4 and 5 million barrels that it was importing. Is China going to say, hey, these are great prices, so we're just going to, send those tankers in and, whatever happens, we'll see what happens. We're willing to take the chance because the price is so good. Or are they going to be more hesitant? Are they going to get back to, producing a lot of gasoline and selling it around Asia? Or are they going to be more hesitant? That's definitely one factor. And so the same thing is with Iran. Are they going to clear the mines from the main corridor in the Strait of Hormuz? And will that be able to be used reliably, say, in a month? Or are we stuck with these, Iranian northern lanes and American southern lanes?
Ellen, I have to jump in just because we got 30 seconds left here. I am curious about China because they are, of course, so important in terms of being a buyer of oil, and in particular Iranian oil. But they have showed that they want to move towards make a greener transition even more quickly. And this has happened before where nations don't want to be dependent on another country for oil. And China doesn't make its own. So are we just going to see more of that? Just quickly.
Well, I think we've seen that China is not dependent on foreign oil for necessarily. They managed to cut their imports by a lot and still maintain economic function. But I don't think the answer is because of green improvements.
All right.